Yes, guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's live stream for the match preview for Lille versus Chelsea in the second leg of the Champions League last 16 tie with a place in the quarterfinals up for grabs. Chelsea 2-0 up from that first leg thanks to goals from Kai Havertz and Christian Pulisic. And funnily enough, if Man United go through tonight and Chelsea go through tomorrow, it means there's a guarantee of an all-English quarterfinal. So that could be something exciting, but obviously both teams have got to get their job done, and it could be one step closer to Paris if Chelsea can see off the formalities tomorrow night against Lille. There's plenty to get stuck into, club ownership, many other things before we get into the game itself. I'm delighted to be joined by Laurenz again, mate. Thanks so much for your time. Always great to chat all things Chelsea. But I mean, before we get into the game, Chelsea are dominating matters off the pitch as much as they are on the pitch at the moment. The deadline for bids is this Friday coming up. So 3 days left for parties to get their bids in, table their bids, show they can, find the funds, etc. There's believed to be up to 200 parties interested. Now, I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure how a bloke off the street like me or you could just be like, yeah, we're interested and we count as a party. I mean, out of those 200, there's legitimately, I can't see there being more than, say, 5 or 6 legitimate people that can actually afford £2 to £3 billion. The three front runners are still believed to be the Todd Boehly-led consortium, which is obviously with Hans-Jörg Weiss, the old Swedish guy, and Swiss, the Swiss guy. And then also Goldstein is his surname, can't remember his first name, is also part of that consortium. I've seen fans kicking off because he's a Spurs fan. I don't really know if does that really make much difference. I'm not too sure in that regard. And then there's the Ricketts family. I think they're Chicago Cubs owners, but by all accounts, people in America say that he's not a very good owner. So hopefully not him. But what I do want to start with, mate, is the news that Nizar Kinsella broke about a Saudi Arabian media company putting a $2.7 billion bid in for Chelsea. What are your thoughts on that? And given the current situation with the spotlight on ownership and, Saudi Arabia's human rights record, how feasible is it that this is actually a goer?
It's a weird one, isn't it? The Saudi thing, and we were just talking off air. It's like, as fans, you're kind of caught in this position where you're like, you want the best for your club. And, at least from our experience, and, even if you compare it to Man City and PSG, like, sure, they haven't either of them won the Champions League, but in terms of success where they are, all this Arab money, if I'm allowed to call it that, it's certainly done well for them, right? So in that sense of the word, it's like we'd probably want some of that too, in a way that we can continue to compete with these like Man Cities and whatever these big money clubs are, Newcastle, over the next few years, long term. At the same time, it's like you mentioned it there, the human rights issues, the problems with the LGBTQ stuff. I mean, we have a women's team. Our captain is, in a relationship with one of our players. Like, I don't know. Like, obviously, the report from Nizar Kinsella was like, yeah, they want to, continue working on the women's team. Sure. I mean, Papai's told me, not every Saudi necessarily agrees with it. It's a tough one for me because if you're rich and powerful in Saudi Arabia, how did you become rich and powerful? Certainly not by disagreeing with everything that goes on there, right? So it's a tough one from that perspective. But then again, it's like, is that for me to judge? Like, there is a fit for purpose, like, committee and process that you need to go through to even take ownership of a Premier League club. The one problem, even take away all the questions about, like, are they good people or whatever, right? How long will that take? Because it took Newcastle forever. Like, I know in the end it seemed to happen quite quickly, but I saw an interview by Amanda, whatever her name is, the
Amanda Stavely, yeah,
there you go. And she was talking about basically they were working on this for 4 years. Obviously, we're in a different position where Roman has to sell right now, or the club is being sold right now, while Mike Ashley was changing his mind every 2 weeks. But still, it's like, would that even happen quickly enough? I don't know. Like, it's really tough to call, but the money would be good.
Yeah, I mean, we can't lie. The money would be good. And, as you said, it's a difficult one as a fan because yes, you want, it's very, exciting. Oh, look at all this money coming into the club. I know we're not exactly new to having a lot of money in the club, but this level of wealth would be another step up from Roman. This group is supposedly worth 1.7 trillion, I think 1.3 or 1.7 trillion, which is just ridiculous money.
Even think about that money.
Oh no, I don't even know. I don't even know how you even get that much money. But like supposedly,
and you probably don't even want to know if they become.
You don't want to know, and I think it's important that people realise that to amass that amount of wealth, no one's doing that legitimately. Some people are exploiting people or situations along the line somewhere to amass that amount of vast wealth. It just depends how much are people prepared to turn a blind eye to because it suits their interests. That's ultimately what we're having, what's going on at the end of the day. As fans, Roman Abramovich, when he come in 19 years ago to buy the club, everyone knew that his money was made in a slightly dubious way and was exploitative. Everyone knew that, but they were happy to accept that money. They were happy to accept all that money into the country, all that money into the game, no problem. So you can't, for me, I read an interesting piece by Martin Samuel in the Daily Mail saying that, from a sort of a hypocrisy standpoint, how could the Premier League or the government block this potential Saudi media group from purchasing Chelsea when they allowed the Newcastle-backed bid to go through, which is arguably much worse. And I don't know the ins and outs. I mean, supposedly this Saudi group is not anything to do with the government, but I'm sure at some point, as you say, when you amass that much wealth, particularly in Saudi Arabia, surely there's links with people that have got, potential dubious doings. So it's certainly an interesting one. To be honest, we have no idea whether they are legitimate contenders or not. But just a little bit more on the legitimate contenders. By all means, the front runners, according to a lot of reports, is that three-man consortium made up of Todd Boehly, the owner of the LA Dodgers baseball club, Goldstein, the Spurs fan, I know, is a businessman, obviously, and then Hans-Jörg Weiss, the Swiss billionaire. They seem to be the front runners. What do you know about them, and do you think that would be a good solution for all parties if they were to take over?
Good solution is always a difficult word. I mean, Todd Boehly himself doesn't seem like the worst guy.
No, he seems all right, doesn't he, from the interviews and stuff, but exactly, it's hard to tell.
He certainly says the right things, but then again, so does Nick Candy. And with Nick Candy, we all say it's a PR stunt. And with Todd Boehly, we believe every word he says. It's like, how are we making that decision what's a PR stunt and what isn't? Of course, Todd Boehly didn't give those interviews right now in terms of in the build-up, anything to do with Chelsea. But he still gave them, as an interview, even whether it's to do with the LA Dodgers or whatever it is to do with, he still will want to say the right things, right? So you don't know how true it is. But in terms of his record at the LA Dodgers, it seems good. They put a lot of money in. They're very successful as far as I'm aware, but don't take my word for that because I'm the opposite of a baseball fan. Or do I understand anything about the sport, if I'm being perfectly honest with you? The only knowledge I have of baseball is when they turn up in American films and play baseball all the time. Like, what's going on? That's kind of it. Of course, like you said, he's only a part owner of the LA Dodgers as well. So it's like when you own 30% there, we don't necessarily know. Please excuse the cat noise in the background.
That's all right, mate.
What we don't necessarily know, maybe some other people know, but I don't necessarily know, is if he owns 30%, is he the one that's mostly in charge of them being run well? Yeah. Or is that mostly due to whoever the people are that own the other 70%? That I don't know, right? Obviously, Hans-Jörg Weiss, he's 86 years old, so it's not ideal. But without being too morbid, he's also 86 years old. Do you know what I mean? Like, how much of a problem and how long will that be a problem? Yeah.
I don't know. I would imagine that he probably isn't going to be the main guy on the consortium. I can imagine that Boehly and Goldstein would probably be doing the majority of the work, and Weiss would perhaps be taking more of a back seat and just contributing some funds.
I feel like we might use him for if it were to happen. I feel like we might use him for when things become political again, and then we get the Swiss guy involved because no one questions, no one questions Switzerland when it comes to politics. So maybe that's the whole intention. I don't know. And then obviously Goldstein, he is English, but he is reported to be a Spurs fan. Does that matter? It's not ideal. Like,
No.
it's not ideal. It's maybe the wrong word, but it's not what we want for Chelsea to be part owned by a Spurs fan. But then again, we also, like, does it matter? I guess in the grand scheme of things, you could say maybe he has a better relationship with Daniel Levy. So if we ever get to a situation with like Luka Modric again, maybe this time we'll be able to sign a Spurs player. I guess you can look at it from a positive perspective if you really want to. I don't know. But what I mostly care about, and I think sometimes I'm not sure if people are just pretending that way or if they actually believe it, but I don't think it's as easy as saying, I don't care if we're still going to be successful or if we're still going to be as successful. It's not it really, because once you were successful, you want to stay successful. Like it's a different story if someone said to us back in 2003, someone like Todd Boehly and their consortium is going to buy us and we're going to still be better than we were then now when we've had Roman and we've experienced winning more trophies than anybody else in the last 19 years. It's different, right? So I still want us to keep winning. I want them to make sure that we keep investing into the academy, keep investing into the women's team, keep investing into all of the kind of projects that we've got going on, whether it's the No to Hate campaigns, whether it's the LGBTQ campaign, whatever it is. I don't want those things to stop, because those would, like, if any of those things were to stop, it would already put a bad light on new owners again. And that's not what you want to see, is it? But yeah, that is the brochure that was given out by Chelsea. The whole Stamford Bridge thing is a tough one as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. Obviously, this come out last night. It's obviously it's been sent out to prospective bidders, I'd imagine. What are your thoughts on those ideas in there? Are those ideas that appeal to you? Do you think they're exciting? Do you think it's stuff that the fans will get behind? Obviously, Stamford Bridge has been long talked about as being an issue in terms of for owners. Can they redevelop it? They can't really do anything to it because of obviously the Chelsea pitch owners. Fans own the pitch, so it's very difficult to knock it down or whatever, or try and relocate somewhere else. So there's obviously that issue, but then again, like with everything, it's money oriented, isn't it? And yes, we'd love to increase Stamford Bridge from its capacity now 45,000 up to 62.5. Revenue from 70 to 200 million from a business perspective and a club perspective, fantastic. If we can do that on the current site, I think everyone's for it. It's just, is that feasible in the current site? And then naming rights of Stamford Bridge to potential future money spinner. Again, I guess, do we want to end up with something like Newcastle had, where it was like the Sports Direct Arena or whatever it was called under Mike Ashley? Do we want it to be called, instead of Stamford Bridge, do we want it to have a different name because it makes us more money? I mean, what are your thoughts on those three things, or those couple of things there, which seem to be the main ones?
Let me actually start on the naming rights thing. Now, for me, I don't want Stamford Bridge to be named differently, but I don't think that that's as big a deal as people always make it out to be. Yeah. Because do you call St. James's Park Sports Direct Arena? No, you call it St. James's Park. And even if they're gonna rename Stamford Bridge, we're gonna call it Stamford Bridge. That won't change. Whether they change the name or not doesn't really matter that much. I mean, if they change it completely, like the example with Newcastle, but if they name it as an example, even though we don't like them right now, 3 Stamford Bridge, right? If theoretically, if that was, then they gave it, and it still had Stamford Bridge in it, would that be the worst thing in the world? For me, no. Would it be great? Absolutely not. But there's much bigger issues I have. The whole stadium redevelopment thing. Now, I'm not sure if I spoke to you about it before, whether it was my channel or whatever, but I was personally a big fan of the plan we had back in 2015 when we tried to just basically tear down Stamford Bridge, except the West Stand because we weren't allowed to, and build kind of around it and build this stadium that looks a bit like, and they called it a cathedral of football, brick walls on the outside, like the audio that will come from that happening would be crazy. Do you know what I mean? And I quite enjoyed it personally, like the whole idea and how it would work. Obviously, what I didn't enjoy is the prospect of playing at Wembley or Twickenham for 4 years. That would be fantastic. But I do, if you want to, quickly scroll up again to the numbers that they show of £70 million a year now for tickets.
It goes to 200 million.
Exactly. But then, so that's 130 million per year extra. But how much would it cost to build a new stadium?
That's billions,
you're probably
isn't it?
going to thinking of $1 billion, right? So that probably takes you like 8 or 9 years so that you're even in a plus again. So like this revenue thing is all well and good, but it takes you 8 to 10 years to even get to a point where you make money from that.
Yeah.
Because until then, you're just paying off all the money you just paid for the new stadium. So it's all well and good. Yeah, revenue goes up from 70 to 200, sure. But, it takes a while for that to actually be any use, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, just moving down to some other ones. Obviously the American market seems to be very important to Chelsea. Obviously, a lot of untapped potential in there. I mean, if you're being cynical, could you say we signed Christian Pulisic because of his American appeal and we want to tap into that market, being probably the most marketable American player there is currently? What are your thoughts on, he's been particularly mentioned as well. Christian Pulisic mentioned commercial value in America. American owners seem to be at the forefront, or 2 of the 3 favourites have got Americans in there. What do you think of Chelsea's plan to exploit the American market? Or I don't know if exploit's the right word, but tap into that through Christian Pulisic and potentially through these new owners?
Well, to be honest, I'm just not sure why we haven't done it before, really. I mean, obviously...
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Obviously, the Rona impacted that whole process, because how long before Rona did we even sign Christian Pulisic? But we should do that, in my opinion. I don't have a problem with that, regardless of who our owner is. We should be making sure that we get as much revenue as we really can, without doing anything dodgy. And hey, I'd rather make money that way than by renaming Stamford Bridge. So do all you got to do in terms of do a preseason tour in America. Why not? No problem with that.
We've done that before loads of times. Yeah.
America. Exactly. Our kit manufacturer is Nike, whether people like them or not. They're a massive brand. Christian Pulisic, obviously. So, why not, tap into that? From my perspective, really, I don't really see much negatives to that, if I'm honest.
No, I don't either. As you say, it's kind of like, if people criticize it, well, a lot of clubs sign players because of their global appeal and because they can get into new markets. You're not telling me that, PSG signed Neymar purely for his football. They signed him because of his global appeal and to get into the Asian market, to get into other markets, to make the club more of a brand. And if we can make Chelsea bigger in America through using Christian Pulisic, then I think, as you said, I think a lot of fans would be all for that. I mean, just one last thing on kind of ownership and sanctions at the moment before we move on to the game itself, mate. What have you made of the situation that obviously Chelsea currently cannot sell tickets and fans beyond, I think, the Brentford game, which will be on the 2nd of April, cannot attend any more games unless they're season ticket holders? I mean, to me, that seems like a ridiculous situation to be in, that, the sanctions are meant to be for Roman Abramovich. You had sports ministers from the government coming out and saying, look, the sanctions are not meant to be against the fans, they're meant to be against the owner. Yet, this is exactly what's taking place. I mean, this needs to be resolved as quickly as possible, doesn't it?
It does. And I mean, just as you were talking a minute ago, I saw a tweet by Jacob Steinberg saying that Chelsea have told fans that they will not be able to sell tickets for the FA Cup tie at Middlesbrough on Saturday. And Chelsea are now asking the FA for the game to be played behind closed doors to protect sporting integrity. Now, I can't lie. I tend to be a pretty positive person. I try to always I was very convinced that, they're going to give us harsh sanctions to start with, and then we're going to talk and everything's going to be fine. We're going to be able to sell tickets, blah, blah, blah. Seems to not be the case, at least for Saturday. So, first of all, I already find that shocking. But like you say, it's just an embarrassment. Obviously, you are British, I'm not. But it's just what are they doing, man? Come on. Just come to some sort of conclusion. Just get a bank account a new bank account, there's nothing to do with Roman Abramovich, that the government has to look at, and whenever we sell tickets, the money goes there, and then we can either donate that money or just pay the wages of the megastore workers. Who cares? Just as long as it doesn't go to Roman Abramovich, that's all they care about, right? It's nothing to do with the UK government certainly shouldn't want UK citizens to basically lose their jobs, not get paid. They shouldn't want that. So I don't understand why any of this is happening, quite frankly. I mean, I understand because they're trying to distract from certain lockdown parties, but focus on real shit for once. Do you know what I mean? Like Thomas Tuchel said in his press conference earlier, the fact that they told Chelsea that Chelsea fans, Boris Johnson has demanded Chelsea fans stop chanting Roman Abramovich's name. I'm excuse yourself? Like, first of all, have you heard free speech? Number two, is there really not more important things to discuss? Like, come on.
Yeah, no, it's a case of priorities, and without being too political, this government's priorities for a long time have been just a million miles away from what they should actually be focusing on. Like the thought of terrible things going on in Ukraine, the response to COVID, the fact that cost of living's going through the roof, and yet the thought of these idiots sitting there discussing this, which is not an important issue, is just absolutely ridiculous. And I thought it was another fantastic press conference by Thomas Tuchel again, putting the government in their place as such. He was answering questions in French as well, just what we come to expect from him. He must be, protected at all costs, and, we need to get him in. But this tickets thing, so just to round out on it, Chelsea obviously pressing the government to allow supporters to have access to tickets. Meetings are taking place daily in search of a resolution. I'm just thinking, you've just named the resolution. How difficult is it to come up with that resolution when you've just come up with it on the spot now? Discuss it, open a bank account, and then any proceeds from tickets can go into that bank account, and then you can decide what to do with it at a later date. Because as you just touched on, how is it, this brings integrity into question, because it's not fair. For example, if we were to beat Middlesbrough on Saturday and this ticket issue still not resolved, we could go to an FA Cup semi-final at Wembley, and the opposing side, and the opposing side gets basically the whole stadium, whilst we get nothing. Like it's ridiculous.
Or we have a half-empty stadium for an FA Cup semi-final.
Yeah, well, either way is absolutely ridiculous. And I think the FA will get onto that because, without being cynical, it's money. They're going to be losing money if Chelsea can't buy tickets, so they'll want that. To be dealt with as soon as possible. But I just think it's ridiculous. And then why it's taking so long to come to a resolution? It's Tuesday. You could easily sell tickets for Middlesbrough in the next couple of days, and then go from there. Because as you said, what do you do? Because obviously the Middlesbrough tickets haven't even gone on sale to. They've gone on sale to, I think, people on the away scheme and season ticket holders, but that's very few people. We'd be lucky if we had 500 people going to Middlesbrough on Saturday.
Exactly. But I will say, though, if they theoretically put them on sale today, would those tickets go out in time? Because otherwise, poor Middlesbrough ticket office. Because when 4,000 people turn up, I've got a ticket, but they haven't sent it out yet. Do you know what I mean? So that would be a hassle. But still.
It's gonna be a problem going forward, though, because as you say, I'm not saying that Middlesbrough shouldn't be a problem, but if we're going to an away game, all right, you don't have all your fans there anyway, but you have a good few thousand, depending on the size of the stadium. Middlesbrough are like championship side, doing very well. They're going to have a full house behind them, a place at Wembley, which they don't go to very often. They're going to be right up for it. If we've got a few hundred there, it makes a big difference. So, I'm not really sure.
Games where you get a much bigger away allocation than for normal games.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution to this is. I can't see the game being played behind closed doors because Middlesbrough will miss out on a lot of revenue and gate receipts. I don't really know what the solution is there. But it does need to be dealt with as soon as possible, because it's unfair to the fans, and it comes to a point where actually it's unfair for the club as well. You're playing at a disadvantage essentially.
It's super unfair, man. It's super unfair. It's just a witch hunt. That's all it is. You've dealt with Roman Abramovich, you've sanctioned him, you've gotten rid of him, he's gone. We're just trying to figure out a sale now. Stop with this crap. Do you know what I mean? It's just a bunch of bullshit. Honestly, sorry for.
It goes to the next thing as well. Obviously, we're still playing with 3 on our shirts and the Hyundai patch because we're in a position where, because we're so sanctioned, we can't get any shirts that are blank. We can't order any. So that's why we're still playing with the 3 logo on there. So, that's just another ridiculous thing. You've got sponsors pulling out or temporarily suspending their sponsorship, yet we're still playing with the logos on the shirts. If they were so bothered about being associated with us, surely 3 or Hyundai would be paying us to have blank shirts so that their logos aren't associated with the club shirt. Because at the moment, their statements look so stupid. They've said those statements saying they're suspending their sponsorship. Yet we're this will be the 3rd game in a row where we've played with their stuff on our shirt. So they obviously can't be that bothered.
No, it's so weird to me, like, because we have taken it off the website as far as I'm aware.
It's off it's off all the graphics. So like, I don't know what it's like in on Austrian TV, but obviously like when they're announcing like the lineups and stuff, obviously all the Chelsea shirts are plain. Like, and any graphics are like there's no logos on them. It's just the badge and the kit sponsor and whatnot. So they've done it that way. And obviously, you know, when they put up the graphics on socials, you know, like the team sheet that comes out, you know, normally it's a player standing there. Obviously, there's no player. So that those things they've taken down. But obviously, you know, the shirts and stuff, we're still playing with those logos on there. So, I mean, it just seems like a bit of, you know, an empty threat as such from these companies. Because also, if they were so bothered, they'd be paying for us to have blank shirts so that their logo is not associated with us. But, you know, it is what it is. Doesn't make sense. But, I mean, getting into the game now, mate, obviously we're taking a 2-goal advantage from the first leg. We head to Lille. Thomas Tuchel knows Lille well from his time at PSG. He's been there a few times before. We've obviously been there in recent years. I think we went there under Frank Lampard. Yeah. And I think Olivier Giroud scored a last-minute winner. I think that was in a group stage game, I believe.
And I think Callum scored, like, we won 2-1, I think, and Callum scored the first goal.
We won 2-1. So we've been there in recent years, and Lille aren't that great at the moment domestically. Obviously, defending French champions. Renato Sanchez missing. Which is going to be a big blow for them. I thought in the first leg he was probably their best player. I was disappointed in Jonathan David. Didn't think he offered an awful lot. But I mean, mate, heading into this game, nothing's a guarantee in football. But is this as close to a guarantee as you can get that Chelsea are going to see this job off?
Hope so. I mean, Lille, they have good home atmosphere. They're a good team. Like, we saw that at Stamford Bridge. We won the game 2-0, but it certainly wasn't like we walked all over them. They didn't have like huge chance in terms of scoring, but they certainly, you know, posed a bit of a threat. But yeah, you know, tune it up. How often do we concede 2 goals? I mean, I don't want to jinx it, so touch wood. But how often do we concede 2 goals without scoring one? Like, it's rather unlikely, I would say. But you know, we still got to be on it. I hope the players don't go into it thinking, oh, you know, that's done anyway. But obviously the situation, I mean, the players, like, honestly, I've said it a couple of times on my channel already, but I think not enough credit can almost be given to the players and the staff because it's not easy, like, with everything going on. Like, especially those players that don't even know whether they're going to, like, it's like Rudiger. See a celebration when the full-time whistle went against Newcastle after we just nicked the win, obviously, late on. And his celebration, I'm like, that guy doesn't even know whether he can be here next season right now. Like, he's probably quite confident he can be because once the club is sold, you know, we can renew contracts again. But he doesn't know for sure. So the fact that these guys are playing the way they are, fair play. So I think it's going to go well. I hope it's going to go well. But just still take it seriously, boys.
I just wanted to talk about a certain individual who is in outstanding form at the moment. That's Kai Havertz. Obviously, you're a massive fan of his. A lot of Chelsea fans are big fans of him. And we've been waiting a long time to see sort of a run of consistent form like this because, you know, the ability's been there, the talent's been there. He's delivered some great moments for the club. But in the Premier League, the form's not been that great, if we're being perfectly honest. And this is probably his best run of form in his Chelsea career. I just wanted to bring up a graphic from last night's coverage of like Monday Night Football on Sky Sports in the UK. Just a good piece of analysis they did comparing Lukaku and Kai Havertz. So I'm just going to bring that up now. I think you can see that there. So basically, you know, I don't know if that's too small. Is that? It's basically showing Havertz and Lukaku in this season. So obviously 1 appearance more for Havertz, a few more minutes, a goal more. But the interesting thing at the bottom of the graphic, I mean, I can't get rid of that line, unfortunately, but touches, like 20 more touches he's taking, you know, more successful passes, covering more ground and twice as many sprints. Do you think now, and we've seen it with Manchester City, we've seen it with the likes of Liverpool, that perhaps in the top teams, there's maybe not room anymore, or it's being phased out of the game, an out-and-out number 9, and it's more these kind of creative players as such. You know, you see Liverpool, Salah, Mane, Jota, Diaz, Firmino. None of them are what you'd call an out-and-out centre-forward. Manchester City don't have an out-and-out centre-forward. Do you think the modern game is perhaps moving away from the traditional number 9 and more to this kind of, you know, mix of attacking players that are versatile across the whole front line?
Maybe it is, you know, because also look at like Messi struggling at PSG. I mean, I know Ronaldo scored a hat-trick the other day, but Man United are worse when Ronaldo plays. The problem is the other players aren't very good either. But
yeah,
like it just seems like we've come to a point in football where it's more important that everyone works hard than it is to have one like either a special finisher or one just super talented player that can't be bothered to do anything. You could even argue like the whole Eden Hazard at Real Madrid, sure, he was never fit and stuff like that. But even when he does play, like the one thing he wasn't known to do at Chelsea was defensive work, whether that's in the sense of pressing or tracking back. So maybe it's a case to be made, but I'm not 1,000,000% convinced necessarily because would you say Havertz plays so unlike a striker? Like not maybe like Lukaku, but I wouldn't say he plays like completely not like a striker. Certainly more so than the City, whoever the official City striker is. They certainly play less like a striker than Kai does. But it's a weird one, especially when you see these stats compared, especially considering it's just in the Prem. Kai has more appearances, but as far as I'm aware, Lukaku has more starts. Could be wrong there. But obviously Lukaku was out injured for a long time, so that's why he didn't have any subs minutes. But the fact that Kai even has more goals now is mental.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 6 goals to 5, but I think the most important stats though are the fact that are the touches, the successful passes, the distance he covers, and the sprints that he makes as well. I think those are I think that's perhaps. Do you think now that Thomas Tuchel actually looks at it and that's what he wants from his forward players? Guys that work hard, cover a lot of ground, have more touches on the ball, and put more high intensity sprints in during games. I'm not saying like Lukaku is lazy as such. That's not really his game, but it looks like that's what Tuchel seems to be favouring at the moment. And a lot of people were going on about when Lukaku was starting 8, 9, 10 games in a row without really doing anything. It now seems that this could be quite cynical. But I'm going to say it anyway, that, perhaps now with the sanctions in place and that Roman is definitely selling up, perhaps Tuchel doesn't feel the need that he has to play Lukaku now. And it's given him an opportunity to play Havertz. And, he's taken that and Havertz is delivering. I mean, do you think there's anything in that potentially?
Could be. It could be. I mean, I tweeted it a few weeks ago because obviously... So after the interview by Lukaku initially came out, he was left out of the immediate next game against Liverpool.
Yeah.
And then after that, he started 10 consecutive games in all competitions. Premier League, Champions League. No, maybe not actually Champions League. No, Champions League, no. Champions League was the first game he didn't play again.
Yeah.
But Premier League, League Cup, FA Cup, started it all. 10 games in a row. And it just wasn't it. And then
it wasn't working.
No, it really wasn't. But it took Tuchel still a full 10 games to finally drop him. Obviously, Kai, throughout that 10 games, had a small injury period after obviously broke his finger against Spurs. Yeah. And obviously, I mean, it was his little finger. So how, should that really stop you from playing football? I'm not sure. Obviously, he will hurt on the day, but as in from 3 days later, do you know what I mean? So I'm not even sure if Kai wasn't always available, especially when Tuchel always said in interviews and press conferences, Kai has, been doing well recently and blah, blah, but didn't get to play. And then one day to the other, he all of a sudden did get to play, played so well that there was no dropping him, really.
Yeah.
But like you said, the touches, the distance covered for me is the biggest thing because the distance covers correlates with the touches. If Lukaku covered more ground, he'd have more touches.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. And I think at the moment, I mean, I know that obviously Lukaku is going to play a part. I imagine Lukaku will probably start against Middlesbrough. He could well feature against Lille tomorrow night, given the fact we've got a 2-goal advantage. We've got a lot of games coming up. Tuchel does like to rotate the squad. But having said that, I mean, Kai Havertz has come into his own and he's showing, why we spent 70 million pounds on him. And I mean, do you think he just has to keep playing every game now? Do you think he's one of those confidence players as well that when he's in a good run of form, like a Hakim Ziyech, you just got to keep playing him? I mean, do you think it would be a mistake to bench him or rest him as such for any upcoming games?
It's a tough one. I guess he can't play every single game. Sure, Middlesbrough will be difficult, whether we have a lot of away fans or not. I mean, they knocked out Spurs, they knocked out Man United, so that already in and of itself is not easy. And also, it's a quarterfinal. We're not playing fourth round or third round FA Cup anymore. Where
It's a
this
big
is now,
game.
yeah, exactly. Like we're 3 games away from another Wembley final. Do we want to be in another Wembley final with our recent record? Different question. But I guess we want to make change the record, I suppose.
Yeah.
So maybe he does just need to keep playing. I don't know what our next league game after. Do we have the midweek off after the? No, it's international break after.
Yes, international break. So we got Lille tomorrow, Middlesbrough Saturday, and then no game until April 2nd, which is Brentford at Stamford Bridge.
There you go. Well, yeah. So, to be honest, for me, start Kai tomorrow and start Kai against Middlesbrough for all I care, if I'm honest. And then after international break, we see where we are. How many games did Kai play for Germany? How many games did Lukaku play for Belgium? And then we go from there, really. But I think for now, it needs to be Kai. It's also in terms of him as a player, not even just as a team.
Yeah.
But why would you not play him? He's in good form. He seems as fit as you can be. I mean, even look at the run from which he scored the goal against Newcastle. It was 89th minute. It certainly didn't seem tired. He was going up against 6'7" Dan Burn, even if the whole of England media tried to make him out to be the new bloody Joker from Batman because he's the worst villain in the world. It's hey, come on, get in the pit. Honestly, I know you had to bring it up there, and it was from Sky Sports, but honestly, these men are all an absolute embarrassment themselves. Especially the fact I can't comprehend how no one's mentioned that Dan Burns' elbow was also like that and also hit Kai Havertz in the face. I don't understand why not a single human has mentioned that. It just cannot believe it. It just triggers me. So, and the fact that he can deal with that, sure, maybe could have been sent off on a bad day. We've certainly had refereeing decisions that could have gone against us 1,000,000%. But he dealt with it and scored the winner in the end. Yeah. Romelu Lukaku got muscled off the ball by Anderson at Palace.
Yeah. So I'm sort of coming around to the opinion now that if Kai Havertz is not going to play number 9, I'd almost rather he didn't play on the pitch. I know that sounds ridiculous, but do you know what I mean? In terms of in that number 9 position, he looks like he's coming to his own. That looks like that's his position right now at the moment. That's where he looks best. When he plays left or when he plays right, if it's narrow 10s or whether it's out and out wing in a 4-3-3. For me, he's just nowhere near as effective. And I think the perfect example of that was when we brought on Lukaku in the cup final. Yes, he did really well, but it was at detriment to Havertz. Havertz got shunted out wide and was nowhere near as effective. I mean, if Havertz is not going to play number 9, would you almost rather he was on the bench? I know that sounds stupid, but do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I would, if we had theoretically number 10, I would certainly still try that, but we don't have that at the moment. So what I really don't want to see is him playing left winger, like a proper left winger in a 4-3-3, 4-1-4-1. Don't want to see that whatsoever. He's left-footed. He has a right foot, but he's quite heavily left-footed. And the way he plays, it just ruins it. But I will also say, because obviously his form has gotten so much better, maybe now he would also be better playing out of position to some extent. Maybe. Because didn't against Newcastle, Lukaku came on and Kai scored, even Lukaku had come on. And we kind of shifted to a front 2, but Kai was still more off the right. So it was kind of maybe a front 3. It was a difficult one to call in that sense. But I don't mind him personally as the inside right forward when we play a 3-4-3. I think if he gets enough time in that position and potentially with Reece James as the wing back next to him, I think that could be okay. But I completely agree with you. I'd rather see him not play than play left wing. But I'd rather just see him play striker than not at all.
I agree. I don't know how likely it is. We'll have to see what happens in the summer. But I would potentially like to see if we could make depending on what happens with Lukaku, if we can make Havertz and Lukaku work as a 2 potentially. But again, that would require perhaps a number 10 and someone more creative in the middle of the park. Maybe a Conor Gallagher next season. I mean, there's possibilities, but obviously that's a long way off. Have to see what happens. Getting into the lineup then, mate. Obviously, I've got it up as a back 5. Champions League, it is Azpilicueta and Alonso, Tuchel saying are ready to start. Hudson Odoi and Reece James, they're going to look at in training later today and make a late call on it, which would probably suggest that neither of those will start. They could feature from the bench. Do you agree with me, mate? We saw back 4 against Newcastle on Sunday. Would you expect with those players now back fit that we revert to a back 5 again?
Yeah, no, I'm very, very sure of that. I'm not 1,000,000% sure if Alonso will start, regardless of whether he's fully fit or not, because I thought Saul did okay at left wing back against Norwich and Burnley. but then again, it's Norwich and Burnley. And to be fair, last time Marcus Alonso played was against Liverpool, and even though we lost, he actually played a good game.
Yeah.
So shouldn't really hold it too much against him. So yeah, back five for sure. Also, just with the players we have available going into the game with a 2-0 lead, why would we suscept ourselves to being defensively more vulnerable? We shouldn't do that.
We definitely shouldn't. Obviously, I mean, Mendy in goal, which doesn't really need much discussion. He's the number one best goalkeeper in the world. He goes between the sticks. Very simple. The back three, you'd imagine that Rudiger and Thiago Silva will make up two of those three. What about the third slot? Obviously, Christensen and Chalobah both played against Newcastle. Chalobah was at right back, Christensen in the back three. Christensen also played in the back three against Norwich with Chalobah when Thiago Silva was rested. We've seen Chalobah make a few mistakes, against Burnley, a couple of errors that weren't punished. Obviously, gave away a penalty against Norwich and should have given away a penalty against Newcastle, but the lads in the VAR room were asleep, obviously, on that one, which worked well for us. For you, mate, Christensen or Chalobah for that last slot in the back three? I know Christensen's future, he's probably leaving, but his level of performance has been very good. And then a few mistakes defensively have crept into Chalobah's game in recent weeks.
They have. Now, I can't remember who played against Norwich at right back. Right back. Aspie, and then he came off a half.
And then Loftus-Cheek played second half. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's weird because obviously Christensen is near on guaranteed to leave for Barcelona in the summer. So being 2-0 up, I almost want to allow Chalobah to play through it because I'm like, he's the guy we're going to have here next season, not Christensen.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know, in that situation, maybe just play him through it. But if I genuinely picked about who would be better to play, it would be Christensen. So I'd pick Christensen.
Yeah.
But if it's Chalobah again, we got to back our players. Play like it's the same with Mount. Like after the cup final, like obviously a lot of fans were annoyed whether you like Mount, whether you don't like Mount. All of us were annoyed at him missing those chances. But I think sometimes people got to remember it happens. Like you have a bad day. I've seen Mbappe miss those. I've seen Messi miss those. I've seen Ronaldo miss those. We've seen Drogba miss those. Do you know what I mean? Like we've seen Diego Costa miss absolutely. It happens. You have a bad day and it happens. Obviously, Chalobah had a couple of not so great games in a row now, but is it going to be better to drop him? Is that going to make him feel more confident? Probably not. If anything, being allowed to play again probably means, the manager still trusts me. That it probably helps. So I think we'd be okay either way, no matter which one of them two starts. But yeah, probably give Christensen a go because I guess for the time being, we also don't know for 1,000,000% what he has left. So maybe we could get back to that conversation. Should he play anymore once it's fully been made official?
Yeah, I agree. I don't really mind if Chalobah does play, but I think Christensen is probably better suited for this game. Moving into wing backs then. Obviously, we've had a few issues at right wing back, well documented. We had to go to the back four on Sunday because of lack of players available. Aspie is now back fit and, according to Tuchel, ready to start. For you, does that mean he goes straight back in? I think it's the obvious choice, really, isn't it?
Yeah, he wasn't injured. He had a stomach bug, it seemed like.
Yeah.
Going on, obviously, that to be honest, I was very surprised that he wasn't even on the bench against Newcastle, if I'm honest. Like, he came off with a stomach bug against Newcastle. The Newcastle game was on, against Norwich, was on Thursday.
Yeah.
And he still wasn't feeling well enough to even be on the bench by Sunday. So I don't know what happened there. Although I will say, if you're not fit enough by Sunday, should you be starting on Wednesday? I'm not sure. But if Tuchel says he's fine, if the doctor says he's fine, if Aspie says he's fine, start him. And hey, maybe we go 1-0 up, then that's basically 3-0 aggregate, and we can sub him back off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's the obvious choice there. It's nice to actually have a straightforward selection at right wing back after having so many problems there for such a long time. Left wing back, I mean, we touched on it. Alonso, according to Tuchel, was fit and ready to start after his illness issues. Obviously, we've seen Sao Niguez deputised there. We saw Malang Sarr play left back in the back four on Sunday. For you, obviously, Sao Niguez did do quite well against Norwich and Burnley, but it was Norwich and Burnley. This is a step up in quality, step up in class in terms of Champions League. It's a knockout tie, a place in the quarterfinals up for grabs. For me, you probably want your specialist guy there. So I'd probably say Alonso. And if we were to go goals up and put this game to bed, then you could easily sub him at half-time or sub him after an hour and play Sound Against. I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's Alonso should be starting or will start?
Yeah, he will start. I think he probably should start. As much as I'm, people might know, you might know, I'm not a big fan of Alonso, but, no matter if I am or not, and I'm not a fan of, say, Timo Werner either, but if players play well, and his last game, he did play well, I shouldn't sit there and say, oh, he's shit. He might overall be shit, but his last game was good. So, obviously, he had the Rona. Who knows how fit, how good he is, so that he will start, and I think he should start, but I am prepared for Alonso to have a stinker.
Hey, always be prepared for that.
You do always have to be prepared. That's very true. It's very true. But it should probably be him. Like, we got to be fair as well. And unlike a few other players that we have, Alonso doesn't try to force moves, and Alonso doesn't, and says the right things when he is asked things. So, a bit of respect sometimes, I feel like. Yeah,
no, for sure. I mean, moving into the midfield then, the double pivot, which is most likely going to be deployed. We saw Kante and Jorginho on Sunday. Apart from Jorginho's fantastic assist, I thought both of them had fairly average games. I know on your channel we were copping a bit of stick in the chat about giving not saying that Kante was that great. I don't really know what was going on there, but I think Kovacic for me has to play in this game, and he should be starting. When he doesn't play, exactly what you miss from midfield. When he come on against Newcastle, just that energy in there, he drives forward, he's got a pass on him. He's the only one of those players that is forward thinking in the middle of the park. And when you've got two players that aren't forward thinking, you can really notice the difference, and what's missing. So for you, Kovacic definitely a shoe-in for one of those midfield positions.
Yeah, Kovacic is the guarantee. I'm still not 1,000,000% sure who I want next to him, if I'm being perfectly honest with you.
Yeah,
but I guess we'll get to that now. Like, who would you prefer? Do you go with Kante Kova again, like within the first leg? Because to me, we weren't bad, but our midfield was kind of open with those two. So should we really play those two again? I don't know, but I also don't know, would it be any less open if it was Kova and Jorginho? I just don't know, if I'm honest.
I've got to be honest, mate. I think it's Champions League. It's a big knockout tie. I know we're 2 goals up, but we've seen time and time again, if Kante's fit, he always plays. Yeah. It's kind of whether we agree with that or not. That's what the situation seems to be, and I'd be very surprised if, obviously Jorginho's played 90 minutes, I think, in the best part of 90 minutes against Norwich. I think he got about 83, 84 minutes, and then 90 against Norwich. Obviously, Kante was subbed against Newcastle, perhaps with half an eye on maybe this Champions League game. I'm not so sure.
He wasn't subbed off.
Was he not subbed off? Who did? Oh no, it was Mount, wasn't it? Yeah, sorry. Mount they both played. They both played 90 against Newcastle. I don't know. I'd probably say I'd rather see Kante there, and I think he will play. But I mean, who would you rather see? I mean, I don't think there's an awful lot of difference to the makeup of the midfield if it's Jorginho or Kante. Kante obviously covers more ground, breaks the play up more often, and is a bit more forward orientated than Jorginho is. But I mean, with Kovacic making those runs and stuff, we don't really need another forward thinking midfielder on the pitch, do we?
That's the thing. That's my big reason why I always preferred Jorginho to play with Kova, because when Kova plays with Kante, Kova is the guy that has to sit. And I think that takes away from Kova's game, and Kova can't shine as much as he can when he has that freedom to go forward, because Kante goes forward. So that's the part why I prefer Jorginho next to him. If it was predicted 11, I'd guarantee you it's Kante and Kova.
Yeah.
If you're asking me my team, I'd probably pick Georgie, just because we're 2-0 up. We're 2-0 up. Let's just control the game. We don't need to be gung-ho and try to go mental. Do you know what I mean? We can just control the game a bit. And I think Georgie suits that better. But we can also do the other way around, start Kante, and then maybe get a goal, similar, like I said, with Aspi, and then bring Georgie on to give us more control once the game's basically put to bed 3-0 in aggregate. But obviously, there's no guarantee we go a goal up. So, I don't know. I'd probably edge Jorginho, but I will also say Jorginho hasn't been in great form. He was decent, acceptable, decent against Newcastle with one moment of magic. Yeah, but the rest was decent, not good, but not bad either. And similar goes for me. The reason why I'm picking Jorginho is less to do with Jorginho v Kante. It's more to do with who allows cover to be better. That's why I prefer Jorginho.
I would agree. And also, I'll probably say as well that out of the 2 games you've got this week, I'll probably say that I don't want to say more important because Champions League is obviously more important than FA Cup. But in terms of the situation of the tie, etc., you'd almost argue that this Middlesbrough game has got more importance or is going to be more difficult than this Lille game. So you'd probably rather have, if you're going to pick a game for Kante to start, this one or Middlesbrough, I'm probably picking Middlesbrough. I've got to be honest. If we're moving forward to the front 3, then starting on the right hand side, obviously it was a 4-3-3 on the weekend. We saw Hakim Ziyech out there. Obviously, we're not going to discuss Timo Werner because he's definitely not in mine, or I don't think he's in your thinking either to be starting for Chelsea.
He started the last 2 games, so I don't know anymore.
Mate, you start questioning yourself. You're like thinking, am I watching the same game as Tuchel's watching? Like, what's going on? Or is Timo Werner just unbelievable in training? I mean, who knows? He could be. But
I mean, I can't see him being unbelievable in training, if I'm honest.
I can't see it. But right hand side, are we thinking Mason Mount or are we thinking Hakim Ziyech? Obviously, Ziyech back in the lineup for the first time since the first leg. He was a little bit rusty. Did put a fantastic ball in over Havertz with the header, which he should have scored. Mount, by his standards, had a shocker on Sunday. Mm-hmm. It's a big Champions League game. Mount tends to play big games. You going Mount or Ziyech for this right-hand side?
Now, if I pick, again, predicted 11, Mount.
Yeah.
For me, I'm not sure. Now, because we put cover Jorginho, I think I might want the bigger engine and also the one that's more comfortable helping midfield if necessary. Yeah. And Ziyech can do that. And Ziyech will never not work hard, but he works hard in a different way to Mason Mount. Like, the one thing we always have to give Ziyech credit for, the guy will run his socks off. Yeah. And the guy will try. Like, no matter what, no matter the game, no matter how fit he is, he will try. So I will never hold that against Hakim Ziyech ever. But just because we went cover Jorginho, I go Mount.
Yeah.
But I would have no problem whatsoever if Ziyech starts. Also because I think sometimes there should be a time when Mount doesn't play well. I said the same thing for Lukaku when he started 10 games in a row. You don't play well, you shouldn't be starting. Like, the other players in the squad need to feel that there is a meritocracy. If you play well, you keep your spot. If you don't, you might get dropped. And Mount didn't play well. So from that perspective, I understand. That's why I would absolutely be okay with him being dropped. But it also very much so depends on who we have on the left. Because is Pulisic fit to start? If he is, I'd say Mount. But maybe he's not, and then we need to go Mount and Ziyech anyway.
Yeah, there's a possibility. Let's get to a couple of bits in the chat. What's this? Did you see that Boehly's interested in buying Denver Broncos too? I haven't actually seen that.
I didn't see that.
I've not seen that either. I don't know. Maybe this guy's got enough money to buy these and be involved in buying us. Who knows? What's the other one? Texas Blue. It's never time for Ross Barkley ever. It's never Ross Barkley time. But yeah. Moving on to the left-hand side then. Pulisic we saw come on for a few minutes against Newcastle. Obviously missed out against Norwich through illness. You would presume that, Thomas Tuchel hasn't said anything in the press conference about Christian Pulisic, so you would presume that he'd be fit to start. Options on that left-hand side are literally him or maybe Timo Werner. And obviously we've discussed Werner and he's nowhere near our thoughts on any Chelsea lineup at the moment. So I guess by default, it's Christian Pulisic. Unless he's not fit, in which case it'll be Mount and Ziyech. But presuming he's fit, he's got to play, hasn't he?
That's the other question. If he's not fit, will it be Mount and Ziyech or will it be Havertz on the left and Lukaku up top? I don't know.
Yeah.
If we did predict 11. I'm going to put Pulisic down. If he doesn't turn out to be fit, then just for people to know, then I would prefer Mount on the left and Ziyech on the right. Just as simple as that. But yeah, Pulisic's done well when he's played recently. Even when he came on, last game, was all right. Like, brought some energy. So no real complaints with me. And also, hey, we're apparently trying to make more money from the US. So
yeah, we need him to play on that prime American market. So yeah, just get him on the pitch.
So we can get rid of 3 as our sponsors and get, I don't know, some big American sponsorship.
Any American sponsorship companies. Make sure we play Christian Pulisic and then hopefully some American money.
Ford. Ford with the blue logo on the bluish cap. Be awful.
It wouldn't look great, but it'd be better than 3. And then moving to the centre forward position, we discussed it at length earlier. I personally, obviously, would 100% go with Kai Havertz, but part of me feels I wouldn't be surprised if Lukaku started this game. I like just because we're 2 up, etc. It's a different competition.
But Kai did the press conference today.
Yeah, he did do the press, but I mean, does that mean he's starting?
It doesn't mean everything, but I feel like
I think he'll start 100%. But I also, part of me feels I wouldn't be that surprised if I saw Lukaku play. But it's got to be Kai Havertz for basically all the reasons we've talked about. I mean, do you think he can score again? It's 3 games in a row now that he's scored in. He's scored the most goals of anyone under Thomas Tuchel since he took charge. So, I mean, do you reckon he can make it 4 in a row?
Yeah, why not? I guess it all depends on how the game goes, really, how we set up. Are we going to be like more conservative because we have a 2-0 lead? Then you never know if and who's going to score. But if we play like we usually play, then I don't see why not, if I'm honest. Like, his touch is on it right now. His finishing is pretty good right now. Yeah. Obviously, he could have had a second one after he's won the goal against you guys. Could have had another one, although the finish on the weak foot was difficult from that side.
Yeah.
But yeah, why not? I back him. Like I said, I'm a big fan of him. And it's also like, one last thing I want to say on Kai. Like, I think sometimes people forget that it's not that easy to move leagues.
No.
And especially when you're as young as Kai is or was. Like, Kai was, I think, 20 when he signed
20
for us.
Or maybe just 21.
21. I think he was still 20, turned 21 relatively soon, and is now 22, right? These guys are young, man. Like,
hey, it's COVID times as well. Coming to a new
think
country,
about how we think of Trevor Chalobah. Trevor Chalobah is the same age as Kai Havertz.
Yeah.
Like, and we wouldn't like have your crazy, stupendous standards for Chalobah, would we? Obviously, Kai Havertz cost us a stupendous amount of money, of course. But if people understand the footballing market, when someone's 28, like Lukaku was when we signed him, you pay for ability. But when someone's 20, you pay for a mix of ability and potential. So that's where the price comes from, right? But he's finding it more and more comfortable. He's dealing with, I see personally, I know obviously Sky and UK media try to slate the shit out of Kai Havertz for the elbow and damper. And for me, it overdid it a bit. And he obviously didn't mean to like hit him in the head and, injure him. But still, it's a case of, I was proud or happy to see that he can handle to some extent a 6'7" centre back.
Yeah.
Like, I also think Kai looks like he's bulked up a bit compared to when we signed him. So those are good things. And like I said, I back him. And even if he doesn't score tomorrow necessarily, I'm sure we'll have a reasonable game. He will run his socks off as he does every game, and he will try to get other people involved.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just on that physical battle, he looks a lot more, as you said, he looks like he's bulked up a bit. He looks a bit stronger. He deals with the physicality of the league, I think, a lot better than when he first come in. I think a lot of players, when they first come to this league, they do struggle physically and they have to, get a bit stronger in the gym and just, throw themselves about a bit more. And I've noticed that in Kai's game more recently. So that's definitely a big positive, mate. One last thing to round out, then obviously we're 2-0 up from the first leg. Should be a formality to make the quarterfinals. What are you thinking score-wise tomorrow? We're in good form. So, I mean, it should be another win. But ultimately, even if it was a draw, it wouldn't really matter that much because all that matters is getting to the quarterfinals on Friday.
Exactly. It's the draw on Friday, yeah?
Yeah, I think it is. This is definitely the last round of games, I think. We got United.
That is, yeah. I just wasn't sure it's the draw Thursday. Is it Friday? Because sometimes
it's normally,
it's Europa League draws. It's on a different day. Sometimes it's the same day. I don't know.
Friday's the draw, yeah. Hopefully they don't have to do it twice like I did last time.
That was such a mate. I mean, hey, it gave me 2 streams and I had like 40k views, so, I'll take it. But, swings and roundabouts, I guess. Score prediction is a tough one, really, because on the one hand, I'm like, Lille will probably go absolutely gung-ho because they have nothing to lose. They nothing to lose, right? So that from that perspective, it wouldn't surprise me if they got a goal. But it would also, if they go gung-ho, that means the longer the game goes on and they still need 1, if not 2 goals badly, the more spaces there will be. And then as long as we're not too stupid to counter-attack, which unfortunately we sometimes are, not quite. Sometimes it almost feels like the players aren't smart enough to play out a counter-attack properly. I'm like, remember the Jose days where we just scored or even Conte, we scored every counter-attack we had? Like, it was great times. So hopefully we can do that tomorrow, and then I'll say 2-0 again. I back our defense, especially if Thiago plays Aspie plays as well. Like I back it. So why not? They'll try to score. We hit them on the break, get 2 goals, and off we go.
Yeah, no, I think we will win. I think we might let one in though.
Yeah.
Just because they've got nothing to lose. It's an intimidating atmosphere at Lille. They'll be bang up for it. I'm going to go for a 2-1. I expect us to carry on our win and book our place in the quarterfinal draw on Friday. That seems like a good point to round out. Laurenz, thanks so much for your time, mate. A pleasure as always. Guys, make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel. I've got it across the banner, and his Twitter and YouTube are in the description below. So please do go and check those out. Lots of great stuff on there. As I said, please do subscribe to my channel. Smash a like on this video. Help me reach the 400 subs. We are edging closer. So yeah, another big push would be really helpful. So please do subscribe to the channel. But other than that, once again, thanks for your time, mate. Greatly appreciated. And guys, we'll catch you in the match reaction on Thursday from the Lille game. So until then, take care and up the Chelsea.